apologies for the late start. We were all on double duties today with the Danvers Visioning focus group at the middle school this afternoon. Um, Good evening. I'm Jitoshen Joko. I go by D, Chair of the Danvers Human Rights and Inclusion Committee. Welcome to our January HRC meeting. I'll urge on to Kristen to start by reading us the native land acknowledgement.
In keeping with our values of equity and inclusion and to support those who experience marginalization, this evening's meeting will begin with a Native American land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the ancestral homelands of the Namkeg and Agawam people. Historical evidence shows that the Namkeg and Agawam were peaceful in their relationship with European settlers. However, their population depleted rapidly due to smallpox and other pandemic Old World diseases, unknowingly introduced by earlier European colonizers to the East Coast. To honor the Namkeg and Agawam communities, along with any other indigenous peoples who inhabited these lands, now known as Danvers, Massachusetts, and who may be lost to history, let us take a moment to recognize the past, present, and future of indigenous peoples and reflect on our roles within settler colonization. We acknowledge these ancestral grounds have been collectively gathered upon and support the resilience and strength that indigenous people have shown worldwide.
Thank you very much. I'll now move on to the third item on the agenda, which is the approval of the minutes. I think we tabled that. I don't think that the minutes. I didn't see the minutes on the agenda, so we table that and do it in February. The next point of the agenda will be the citizen queries. If there's a resident who has a questions, concerns, hear none. This is what I'm going through that agenda pretty efficiently. The fifth point on the agenda will be the liaison update. We start by the student liaison. Jasmine, you wanna?
Yep, so just reporting on their behalf, Isaiah and Nora were the student speakers at our MLK event on Monday. They did a fantastic job. And I know this is midterms week for them all right now, so that's probably why they're not here. And I know that, well, I'll leave it at that.
Perfect. And the Danvers Interfaith Partnership Liaison. Do you want to have Pastor Doc speak of that, or you want me to? Oh, sure. Kristen.
Sure. Okay. The Danvers Interfaith Partnership met with Chief Level and Sergeant Colella to discuss community building in Danvers through outreach. This involved education and meeting needs through connection where they most exist.
Any questions or comments for Pastor Voigt?
Is this, I don't know, this Sergeant, is this one of the, like, related to, like, one of the school resource officers, or is this separate from that?
In his previous role, he was with the school resource officer. In his old role, he was a school resource officer. Now he's kind of more in community engagement.
Okay.
And this is our second meeting that we've had with them, which has been really helpful to realize where we really connect in our mission to try to be present to the community. And so we're just kind of beginning to kind of expound on where those connections are, seeing where people are on the margins, where there are needs in the community for further education and trust building, as well as looking at where the greatest need are for our food pantry, for expanding services for folks. The police department, the sergeant and both the chief had expounded upon their toy drive this year and how they met needs within the community that way. And so just looking at how the interfaith partnership and the police department can work in collaboration with one another. And so a lot of bridge building. And so it was a really good meeting. We're looking at how to build upon that in the future.
Any other questions or comments? Pastor Voigt, is the Interfaith now meeting regularly? And if so, do they have like the next meeting date?
Right, so the meeting happens on Tuesdays, and so we're in the third month, this is the third Thursday, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so they're the third Tuesday. So the same week as this meeting, the meeting is on the Tuesday. And so the meeting has been regular. The difficulty is sometimes pulling all the clergy together. So in this particular meeting, there was a lot of things going on, and so our attendance was rather low. So it was Pastor Pam Cochran and myself that were meeting with the sergeant and the chief. And so it was more of an intimate sort of conversation we were having with them. The larger clergy were not present. Typically, we've been having a greater showing than that in our meetings, but the meetings are happening much more regularly than what they had during the last year. And so there is a greater involvement that's going on. Jasmine has been part of some of our meetings as well over the last few months, which has been really helpful then in bridging kind of a collaboration of spirits with this committee as well. So it's been very helpful.
Thank you.
Okay, the next update, Select Board Liaison. So the Select Board last met on January 17th, 2023. During the December 20th, 2022 meeting, the Select Board Chair issued an apology for the treatment of our incoming HRIC members and acknowledged the misinformation shared by a Select Board member. I don't see David here, but
David is not here. Any comments, questions? I have no questions, but
Was
yes,
it a meeting where a select board member was censured? Three motions to censure were passed? Thank you.
Okay, next.
School Committee Liaison, the Danvers Public Schools announced Dan Bauer as the next superintendent.
Yes, Dan Bauer is the current principal of the Marblehead High School. He came highly recommended by folks over there, and since we made the decision, I can't tell you the number of emails we've received and phone calls really extolling his virtues, and he's got a big personality. I think he'll be a wonderful face for the school system, and I think he'll be a great communicator, and I think he's committed to continuing the efforts toward diversity and inclusion that are underway. So, I mean, we're really pleased to have him. We think he's going to do a great job for us. He was at the MLK event on Monday, and he came to the strategic planning event today, too. So he's already connecting with folks here in Danvers. And I would like to thank the members of this committee who came to the interviews. I saw Bob and Bill, I think, at all three interviews, and Dee, you were at least at the last one, and you may have been at others. I'm sorry if I missed you, but and Paul Pollock came to one of them. So, I mean, the interest that you showed and the chance I had to chat with you about it really helped, so I appreciate it.
And I want to commend
you.
the school board for the excellent job they did in the interviews.
Thank you. Yeah, we had three good candidates.
Excellent.
But yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Yeah, I mean, I agree there were three really good candidates, so you could not have gone wrong with any one of them. So congratulations, and looking forward to working with him and to all the success.
Thank you.
And then the last update is the Police Liaison, so no updates to report at the time of the memo creation. So I don't see Rob here, so I don't think there's anything else.
Perfect. Thank you
Okay.
so much. We'll now move on to the sixth item on the agenda, which is the DEI report out. Dashmin.
Yep, so I first and foremost just wanted to acknowledge Michelle Schoss, who is going to be taking the meeting minutes for us. And so with that, I want to make sure I'm encouraging folks to speak into mics as much as possible, not only because we have audience that does watch our videos, but I know Michelle does go back. We want to make sure that she can take the best notes she can. I also would love to ask support and accountability. So I take responsibility for forgetting to attach the meeting minutes for this month. I would love support, especially when things get hectic, if someone can nudge me in an email prior, like, hey, you forgot the minutes. So if anyone would love to step up and have my back, I would appreciate it. It's been a hectic week. So I also wanted to offer up reminders for two upcoming events. On Monday, from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m., we will have the Lapin Foundation History of Anti-Semitism virtual film and discussion. This is a partnership between the town and the Lapin Foundation. And right now, we have 31 people signed up, I believe, and so that's very exciting. And so if you haven't done so already, I encourage you to do so. It's only an hour. And again, we want to continue those partnerships within the town and resources outside of the town to continue education around anti-Semitism. And I wanted to note that next week, Friday, January 27th, is actually International Holocaust Remembrance Day. This marks the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz Nazi concentration camps. And that camp was the scene of the murder of more than 1.1 million Jews between 1942 and 1945, according to the Boston Globe. So again, just to keep in mind contextually, we have this important work to continue to do. The second upcoming event is in, I believe, 2 weeks already. Again, Facilitating for Justice. This is a community workshop I'll be hosting at the library Thursday, February 2nd from 6 to 8:30. It's in the Gordon Room at the library, and registration is required. This is a community conversation about how to facilitate conversations related to DEI. So that can be talking about race, oppression, or anything that might be difficult or contentious. I'm fortunate that I've had at least 20 people sign up coming from a variety of backgrounds and levels of experience. So I think it's going to be a wonderful opportunity to really pull from the knowledge in the room and the wisdom. And I would love to have support from you all. I know you've sat through a lot of my trainings at this point, but it would be wonderful to have your input into that as well.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments?
I just want to add that for the Facilitating Social Justice event that Jasmine is going to do at the library, you can sign up through the library website. You can go to the events page and to the date, and you can sign up from there directly.
Perfect. Thank you. Anything else? Yeah, no. Okay. We now move on to the next item of the agenda, which is committee goals and metrics of success. And this is a discussion and slash conversation that we've been having for the past few months as to how do we know we're doing a good job. You know, we could do events, we could do everything and tap ourselves on the back, but are we really making a difference? And part of that discussion was for us to try to give ourselves some goals. And that is actually part of why I thought, even though we had the focus discussion tonight at the middle school, really wanted us to meet in January to really set ourselves up and come up with some concrete goals so that when come December, we can look back and say, yes, this is what we've accomplished, this is what we've done. Jasmine, Kristen, and myself had a brief meeting yesterday or the day before and kind of started to brainstorm on this. And some of the things that we came up with was, this is something that we also started, was to establish the honorary member position or member emeritus to advise committee as a non-voting member. We've had this discussion before, and I think there was a consensus. Do you have the language for that?
I'm just pulling it
Okay. I think there was a consensus in this committee, but we really never voted on it to bring it to the select board for consideration. And my thought, if I just want to reiterate, was that we're having it as a goal because it's important that long-standing members don't just disappear in the nature. You know, historically, people just stop showing up and then we figure out they no longer belong to the committee. We want to change that and have it really well structured and be able to honor some of our members as they decide to either retire or if, you know, so we can have them under that emeritus membership or honorary membership where we can still use some of their wisdom and expertise, but they are not necessarily required to be at every meeting every month. And we have a draft language here that I'll have Jasmine read for us.
So these members are non-voting positions, excuse me, that recognize longevity and/or impact of individual members during their terms. Members may express intent to serve in this capacity upon reappointment, and voting members would decide that appointment. These members are welcome to participate in open discussion and offer guidance, but are not required to attend every meeting. So this was the language that we had talked a little bit about last year, and I think there was no immediate feedback on the language. One piece that we're still figuring out is what to call it. So just to focus the conversation, yeah, between honorary membership or member emeritus. But
So do we have a preference? Because I would like us to adopt this language, if everyone is okay, and send that to the select board for consideration. So do we want to call it honorary member or member emeritus? Any preference?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would think emeritus probably sounds better than honorary. Maybe honorary if it's applied to me, but I don't know about honorary.
Okay.
But emeritus, I think, means someone who's been around, and at least that's the connotation.
Okay.
They've been around and done their time, but you just keep them involved. I don't have everybody else things, but that's my initial thought on it.
Yeah. Any?
I would agree with you.
Perfect. So it sounds like we'll be calling them. And then how about the verbiage of their role? What Jasmine just read, are we aligned with that?
Pretty direct.
Yeah. Okay. So if we are okay with that, I will need a motion to adopt that we present this proposal to the select board for consideration.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
In a second?
Second.
Okay. The motion has been seconded. Any discussions? Here none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The motion carries. So we will reach out, we'll follow up with the town manager to have it on the select board agenda. Another goal that we talked about was so another goal that we talked about was to establish a 3-year term treasurer position to oversee the fundraising and manage the budget of the HRC and Friends. And the reason is because we have these, sometimes we have these donations that don't necessarily go to the town, they go to the Friends. We have our scholarship that we fund through those donations, because the scholarship is not funded by the town. It's the Friends of the HRC. And those kind of get lost in between who is handling it and who is going to get the check and where does it go and who looks at the statements. So I thought that it would be a good thing for us to have someone in charge of that, so that it's well established, and we can have it for 3 years, which it can continue or someone else can take over after. I don't know how people feel about that.
I mean, I think, so from the last meeting, I think we established it was a need. I think Paul feels very strongly about that. And I offered myself to step into that role if no one else is interested. So, you know, I think it will help us prioritize like what events we can do, what money we actually have each year, and what we want to do with it. So you know, I think it's a good idea, and I'm happy to help if we all agree.
I'll take the help as far as I'm concerned with it, yes.
That normally be a regular voting member, or it can be anybody, or treasurer? Or would it be another position?
Well, I think it can be anybody. But if you take that, and I think at the last meeting of the Friends, it has to be a member of the Friends, I think, does it?
It's kind of nebulous who actually is a member of the Friends.
Okay.
I mean, I know I am because I've been around so long, but beyond that, I'm not even sure who are actually members. whether they're appointed by this committee or just volunteer, or?
They are
how we
volunteer
done it?
appointed by the Friends, and I think they are David McKenna, Charlie Desmond, Paul Pollack, myself, and now Kristen.
And the other question is, there were other former members who were members of the Friends. I remember Cynthia Meehan, I believe, was a member. Does her, or a individual's membership of the Friends cease when they cease being a member of this committee?
I don't know.
It's something we probably need to clarify at some point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's something we definitely need to
But
check.
having a treasurer, I think, is important.
Yes. I'll definitely go ahead and take Kristen to her offer. Thank you so much. That's not even like. So I don't think this requires a vote because it's the funds of the Friends.
It's a separate organization. I think you're right. I don't think we
Yes,
need to vote
we
on it,
don't need
no.
to vote on it. So thank you so much, Kristen.
If anyone else wants to take it, I don't feel strongly about serving 3 years, so if someone else wants to do it too, please feel free to tag in sooner.
We have Kristen for now. The third goal that we talked about was to identify an unofficial liaison to the Massachusetts Human Rights Commission. I've been attending, and I think Jasmine as well. There's a coalition of human rights and inclusion committee for the state, and they usually meet the one Friday a month with some subcommittees, sometimes another Friday. And I think that it will be important for us to have one of our members attend those meetings to kind of have an idea as to what's happening in other communities and kind of be like a liaison to the Massachusetts Human Rights Commission. I think that would be a good goal for us to start to build those bridges with other communities as well. Sure.
I just wanted to add perspective. So the goals that Tutushe are going through now, they're coming from the feedback that was given during last meeting, and then in the follow-up email I sent where I was like, send me your ideas of what is working and what should be changed. And one of the things that was put in as part of a potential for change was thinking about how other committees, human rights committees, function in other towns, and thinking about what, for example, what voting authority do they have? How much say do they have? Like, what's their relationship specifically with their, town manager or equivalent? And so this is one step towards that, of branching out to establish that connection and understanding. So that's like the big picture. The small picture ask for something like this would be to just show up to those meetings and to take notes, maybe share out upcoming events we have, or things like that. So it wouldn't be a heavy lift.
Do we actually appoint someone to this now? Or
Yeah, I think if someone's interested.
if someone is interested to this, I mean, I've been attending those meetings, and I will be more than happy to.
Yeah.
Where are the meetings located?
Yeah.
They're virtually for now.
Sorry.
Yes. Sorry, I should have let you know. Yeah, they're on Zoom now.
And you said once a month?
It's once a month on Friday, usually 10 a.m. I think,
Okay.
on Zoom.
10 p.m.?
10 a.m.
Oh, a.m., okay.
Yes.
I'd like to.
Sure.
volunteer as well.
Perfect. The more, the better.
Can the link be sent out to us so that
Yeah.
Oh yes.
more
Yeah.
than one person wants to hop on there, we could?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There's actually one tomorrow morning. Yes.
I was just going to say, my Friday mornings are usually flexible, so yeah, so sending out the link would be helpful because there could be possibilities
Okay.
of popping in.
So just to confirm, I think Bob and Shilpa wanted to be the regular representatives.
Exactly.
And then
That's what I was
sharing
gonna say.
yeah, okay.
You said that was Zoom?
They're on Zoom, yes. So, I mean, once the link is sent out, anyone can attend, but we just wanted someone to be like reporting to them what's going on and then reporting back to us what's happening in that end as well.
If Shilba would like to do it, I mean, I can occasionally, but why don't you carry, you could,
I'm happy to do it,
yeah,
yeah.
fine. So I cede to her.
Oh, okay. And there's a lot of movement in that meeting going on now, because there's a lot of cities and towns in the state that are trying to put a structure like ours in place. I mean, we've been here 24 years. We take it for granted, but there's a lot of cities and towns that do not have an HRC, and they're coming to this meeting to try to find ways, and we can do the same. It's kind of like a win-win. Another one of the pillars that came up from our another one of the goals, which I think is the biggest one, was to create pillars to the HRRC to drive our work and further our charge. We have all these events that we do all year long. We thought it would be really important to have pillars and use it as the goal, so that everything that we do, or at least most of what we do, feel in one of those pillars. We may not have all of them tonight, but that's something to think about. If you have any idea, I think one of them could be something like education. The education could be a pillar. And if we agree on to 4 or 5 pillars, as we do things, as we look at our subcommittees, as we run events, we know what's the goal, what is it that we're trying to achieve, what pillar. Help me explain that. You can probably explain.
Yeah, what's the purpose? Why are we running these events? Why are we engaging in the community in the way that we are? What is the purpose? And I think so much of what we do already has that, but this helps us define that and demonstrate that more and measure that more. So for example, like one of the things when we were thinking about this the other day, like thinking about the Latinx event, my first thought was like I don't know what we would call it, but like community building, community engagement, thinking about the vendors that were there and the different resources that were available. Like it was such a great way to call in local businesses, really like amplify Latinx locally owned businesses, just like different community engagement. And so thinking about like that, while it's a meaningful event, it also fulfills something that we could have more structured as a goal.
Yes.
So what essentially we want to do is connect the community with the various diverse populations that live in this town. Is that what we're trying to do through our events?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Any other thought? I have so far, I said education. I have community engagement. Any advocacy? Okay.
So in that pillar, I would see our Pride event being an event of advocacy, or at least that's one of the intentionality, or any of the intentions, I should say, of the Pride event. There's other intentions surrounding that, but to be advocates within the community.
Can we say advocacy / allyship? Is it the same thing?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you would describe there. It's entertainment, it's fun, it's building community.
Any other pillars that? Yes.
Well, there's the July 4th event, which reaffirms our commitment to the reading of the Declaration of Independence to the universal expression of human rights, which is, after all, what this committee is named after.
So what would that, what would the pillar be?
I made a note that we talked.
Sure.
One of the notes that we had talked about that we didn't say here was just we want us to be thinking about events is not a pillar in and of itself, but rather a function of a pillar. So like it wouldn't be its own thing, but I think Pastor Douglas put it really well, where our Pride event would fall more so under the advocacy pillar, and the Latinx celebration event is more under community engagement or community building. So we're trying to reorganize the way we're approaching the work of this committee.
Maybe affirmation or commitment. Being committed to a cause or to a principle. I'm not sure I'm expressing it the way what I'm trying to say, but
That's our mission.
yeah.
Our commitment is
Yeah.
to human rights.
Mm.
So, can I interject here a minute? So, our pillar would be human rights.
Yes.
So when we look at the document of the Declaration of Independence, things get a little dicey because there's some complications, because there's gray area there, if I may say this and be very honest and forthright. The Declaration of Independence does not necessarily include all people when it says we the people. And so when that document is read, it is a difficult experience for all people to hear it because it doesn't fall on everybody's ears the same way. So this committee actually reading the Declaration of Independence maybe doesn't even fit into the pillar of human rights because that document is a complicated document for many people. And that's something for us maybe to look a little bit deeper at because this is something that is complicated. So maybe the Declaration of Independence might be something to be read by a different committee or organization within the town of Danvers for the 4th of July, because even the 4th of July, celebrating independence is complicated because not all people were independent at the Declaration of Independence. There were people that were enslaved at that point in time. There were people that were captured. There were people that were not necessarily freed or even determined to be human beings. So the reading of the Declaration of Independence is very, very complicated. So I'm just saying, and there's differing opinions, I'm just saying it's something to be looked at because when you talk about human rights, it's not necessarily something that includes all people, so the reading is complicated.
And thank you, Pastor Doc. And the exercise that we're having now is not necessarily a discussion of the events that we run. We're trying to find what is our goal running the event, whatever the event is. I would not want us to focus on a specific event per se. It could be obvious that one event falls in a specific pillar, but I want us to think big picture and what are our pillars? What's our goal? Maybe the Declaration of Independence doesn't fall into human right. Maybe it falls into education. Maybe that could be something where I don't know.
Where we educate around.
Exactly,
the
we
Declaration of
educate and put it
Independence.
into the proper context. I'm not sure.
Like MLK was something around human rights, around racism, around that. It could fall under education.
Yes.
You know, there's
But I want us to think about our pillars first before we start thinking about specific events. And so far, and again, we don't have to get all of it now, but if we don't, I would like each of us to have, maybe send that to Jasmine before our February meeting so we can end February with the pillars that we're working on. And then these events that we'll get into with the subcommittees and things like that can fall into certain pillars. Yes?
I don't know if this one overlaps with education, but something like communication. That could, where, like making, being the first to make a statement about something, being a voice for the town in these areas, such as the white supremacists putting up a sign
I would love to see something like that, perhaps with communication and promotions coming together. I know way back when I first reviewed all the documents for the committee of everything that existed, that was a clear gap. And I know when it comes to promotions, there has been like a bit of confusion between like we have a the committee has a Facebook page. It should not. That a lot of communications come out of the town, but I will say that a lot of the promotions for recent events, like I did all the MLK promotions, and it's actually like that is a full-time job. I need you all to know that. Even little things like little asks like, oh, we should make the program digital. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. And also the reformatting, the QR codes, remembering how to do that. That takes up a lot. But if there's someone who would be willing, or if we can make this a pillar, I could see that being something where when we have an event where we kind of do brochures now, that's become our thing, to have that support. So someone's just sending me the information, and then I use the town's Canva account to like design it, but the information is given to me. So I'm not developing the content and designing it. That would be another way to, and we've talked about having an information brochure or some kind of handout about the committee and the work that it does. So little things like that, to make sure that the information about what you all do is out there, could be really valuable.
Okay. So far I have education, which we can get events that fall into that. We have community engagement or building. I have advocacy, allyship. I have communication and promotion. Any other thought ideas?
I don't know, bridge building would come into under something or be something of its own.
Can I ask you a
Yeah.
clarifying question?
Please.
Because again, when we're talking about like even community engagement, there's like internal and external. So when you're saying bridge building, I'm thinking externally. So like that's like the Massachusetts Human Rights Coalition and
Right.
things like that versus like bringing Danvers together. Is that what you're getting at, or?
A bit of both. So how can we build bridges within the town and with similar organizations at a state level, like with the Massachusetts Human Rights Commission? It's just something I'll have to think about more. I was just thinking out loud.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote bridge building. I don't know if that will fall into community engagement
Probably,
and building.
yeah.
But again, as we develop this, right, we don't have to limit ourselves. We just get all the ideas, and before we know, we realize that they overlap, and that one pillar is kind of falling into the other one. Then we come up with the top 4 or 5, and then that becomes like our goal.
I would also say bridge building with different town organizations, say with the library, like specific things that we can do with these different town organizations in terms of furthering what we do as a committee.
Anything else? Any other idea? I think we got something to work with here. So,
Can I just add something? So, once we agree on the pillars that we want to be our goals and priorities, I think the intent is that we decide which pillars we want to focus on, and everyone would have a minimum of one, but certainly as long as we're within quorum requirements, it could be as many as people wanted, and then the expectations then are that there's leadership and ownership within those pillars to actually drive things like events and initiatives, and if things come up in these meetings. So for example, something that came up a few months ago was the opportunity to put like a guidance together on if people want to organize or protest. This came out of I think our September meeting, Jasmine, remind me. But that was a really great idea that came from a resident that has just been kind of marinating, because we don't have anyone in our committee right now that has offered to take it on, and we don't have the structure to kind of delegate that. And so those types of things could come back to those people within our committee that are interested in those roles and actually execute on them. And I think it'll really help with the challenges that I think we've seen in the last year or so with the subcommittees of engagement and leadership, and people will actually be doing the things that fire them up. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, so as I said, thank you, Kristen. So we have something to start with. I have 5 here on my paper. Please think about what you think not only this pillar should be, but also, as Kristen said, where is it that you can participate and lead. If I take education, for example, and it's a pillar that is of interest to me, when we have events that are leading toward education within that pillar, that's where I'll focus much of my time into organizing and getting it ready and things like that. If someone else has advocacy or allyship, maybe when we start doing the Pride event, which is an event that might fall into advocacy, then there's going to be a couple of folks that are going to lead that initiatives. So that's the idea behind. So it's well organized, well structured. Perfect. Now, where do I go next? Subcommittee. Then, so having these goals and pillars are really gonna set us up for success, because now we could have clear objectives and be able to know if we're doing a good job. Now, subcommittees. Kristen?
Yeah, I think, I don't know that there's much more to say about them at this point. I think now that we are going to, proceed with brainstorming the pillars and agreeing what we would like to participate in, I think the subcommittees will then fall into place, probably beginning with the next meeting. We can figure out, looking at the events that we've been running and that we want to continue to run, where do they fit? Who wants to take the lead? That kind of stuff that we've talked about, a few times. So I think that would probably be a better conversation for the next meeting, where we will have established these pillars and we figure out where things fit. Because typically our subcommittees are set up for event planning. So, yeah, I think that's really all to add at this point.
Perfect. Any other questions, comments? Perfect. No. The next item on the agenda will be the proposed language about member emeritus. I think we did that already. Apologies, I took that out of order. Item number 10, we're almost there. Reappointment announcement. So I believe that this year we have Jorge and Bob up for reappointment. And I think it happens in March and I don't know if there's I know the select board was trying to have like everybody reappointment happen at the same time. Yes, please.
So I think I don't know that that's coming from select board yet. That conversation has not really been solidified in any way, shape, or form. The records indicate for the HRIC, the 2 members are up in March. However, it might be, I think you all have an opportunity at this point to decide if you wanted to move closer to the fiscal schedule if it made more sense. I know there's been a lot of committee movement in recent years, so it might just need a little bit of a reset at this time.
Okay.
So the year might not change, like they'll still be up this year, but in terms of the month.
So maybe we do it in May so that it aligns with the fiscal year that starts in July, since we usually don't meet in June. Does that make sense? I suppose that's a yes, or do,
Yeah, I would say yes.
yeah. So I think maybe we move it from March to May so that it aligns with the fiscal year. And I think the reappointment process is outlined in the package that Jasmine had sent everyone. I think they just they have to, I forget what it is. But
Oh, do you want me to pull it up?
yeah, can you put it up?
Okay, so in your information packet, and this is also,
This reappointment, this is the first I've heard of it. Is this a process that's new, or I don't remember in the years that I've been on this committee there being a reappointment. But is there,
I believe we
Yeah.
serve for 3-year terms.
That's right.
3
And
years?
then you
So-
get reappointed
Okay.
unless you ask not to be. They kind of sneak up on you. Once they got you.
Yes,
So-
it's a 3 year term.
Oh, okay.
and that should be outlined again in that information packet that I sent out back in September. And so yes, all boards and commissions do have reappointments. For this committee in particular, one of the challenges with the structure was that it wasn't documented exactly what the process was. And because we're seeing a lot of interest in the community, particularly from folks who don't have prior board and commission experience, it's a great time, especially now that we're identifying goals and pillars and really focusing on the structure, to start making the reappointment process more transparent for the public that wants to be engaged, right? And I think we've had conversations in the past as well about just because this is who's in the room and some of us have voting power doesn't mean that the community can't be involved in the work that we do. So that's why one of the approaches leadership of this committee talked about was like writing it down and making it known to the public. And so what's in your information packet, it says appointments for a 3-year term. At the end of every term, we're asking that members are able to express their written interest in reappointment. So that would be an email to Dee. And the decisions to be reappointed are made by the same group that appoints people in the first place. So select board has the ultimate approval, and then the committee chair and so on. And it's important to note that reappointment is also contingent on committee performance and conduct and volume of interest, outside interest in our talent pool application. So we put language in of committee performance in the event that there was issues with members, but we don't have that. That's just more precautionary. But being mindful of, I think more importantly, the volume of outside interest in our talent pool application. So keep in mind when the committee chose Johan and Shilpa, that was from a pool of, I believe, like 14. So that's, again, we're just adding language so that the public can feel more aware of the process and engage in that process. And Tricia, I don't know if you want to assign like a deadline while we're talking about it of when you would expect like that written interest in reappointment to you. And you can follow up with an email to Jorge as well.
What I want to double check with the town manager that we can actually move it to May 1st.
Sure.
Because I think I was appointed in March, if my recollection is correct. So I don't know if we can move it to May so that it aligns with the fiscal year, and then I'll follow up with an email. But I just want to double check. Is that okay? Okay.
You're the boss. I don't think I saw any information in the records about your date in particular, but I can also take another look.
Yeah, I think it was March. Any other questions? Here none? Okay, perfect. I will now move on to the next item of the agenda, which is menorah lighting debrief. Oh, you have me up for that. Okay. Well, we did light the menorah again this year. I think, David, is that the 12th year? 12, 13?
Doesn't seem it's that long, but it could be.
Yeah. It
Time's
was
going by
very
fast
well
these days.
attended. Thanks again to the Shabab of the North Shore for not only providing the menorah, but for coming for the public lighting. And thanks to all the citizen volunteer that Ms. Curtis comes in mind, that volunteered and other folks that volunteered to go and light it every night. It was a really good event. I don't know if Kristen, you were there. Yeah.
Bob was there.
You were there too. Yes. So any comments and anything that we can do better? Anything that we did well?
Make sure the bulbs work.
That's true. That's true. We lost the.
Doesn't like the dreidel I brought home.
Yeah, we lost the middle bulb. It's called the shamash, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So, and we actually lost the bulb of the second night too. And I went there, I pulled my truck over and was trying to get on the bed of my truck to see if I can get up there and change it. I was just gonna flip them over. And I saw a police car go by, and I'm like, I don't think this is a very good idea. So I went back home and got a ladder and came, and by the time I came back, someone had come and changed it. I don't know who that was. But the middle one, I was like, I'm not going to do it again. So, but yes, I think part of the thing we probably want to do next year is just have someone that we can reach out to. It's never happened before, and I wasn't sure who to contact. I contacted the rabbi himself, Rabbi Yassi, Rabbi Barron, and he told me to just try to screw it back on. But I think next year we want to make sure we have someone that we can contact if that happens again. And it was really well attended. The kids were very happy. Was a lot of dancing and singing going on. So it was a really good event. Perfect. Next one will be MLK debrief. Paul is not here. Unfortunately, he couldn't attend the event. I spoke to him last night. He had a family emergency. Everything is fine now, or relatively okay, but unfortunately, he was unable to attend. And kudos to him and Bob and Jasmine for the subcommittee for really putting a wonderful, and Adam Federico, Mary Wormer from the school, Alex Grover, and the art teacher and the students. It was beautiful artwork, really masterful.
Anna Bond was responsible for getting all the peace posters.
Yes, yes.
Anna Bond.
She's our teacher in middle school.
I would leave it out to other people to comment. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I think Jasmine did a splendid job being the moderator, there. Attendance was up. It was really an event.
Yeah, thank
Food
you
was
so much.
great, too.
The whole evening was outstanding.
It was really fun. It was a really good mix of different activities. I wish I could have stayed a little longer, but that's not what happens when you have a 5 and a 3-year-old that are thrashing around and can't sit still. But it was beautiful. The only piece of feedback that I heard was that people loved the artwork. They wanted to know more about the artists, and so knowing like the grade or anything that could be shared. People were just so in love with seeing it. So maybe something for next year we I don't know if we're allowed to like disclose. Actually, there was one section that was kindergartners, and that was like, oh my gosh, like the cute little kindergartners made these houses. So I think maybe we could, but yeah, that was the only, not even a negative, just the one thing maybe to add. But it was beautiful. It was good.
Yes, Bill?
And the last time we had an in-person one, we had name tags for all our committee, and Mary never thought about bringing that up at the planning day, so. So she said next year.
So name tag, yeah, that's a good idea. Yes.
One thing I found interesting, Kirsten mentioned the kindergartners' artwork. I guess they were told to put whatever is on your mind. More than half of them had phone listed or iPad in kindergarten. Oh, my God.
Yes.
I have a suggestion for next year, in addition to what we do, maybe the Saturday before, if we could have a day of service. And I'm happy to organize that at the library, if we could maybe collect food items, toiletries for the Danvers food pantry, have people come and bring it to the library, and then we could have volunteers who would package it and then take it. So that's just a suggestion.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Make it a 2-day event or a
Yeah.
whole weekend event.
I just wanted to share other feedback that I had received was along the similar lines of what it might look like, even if it's a service component before this type of program, which, you know, goes back to what, you know, shout out to Amanda Sims, who was really interested in that from the jump as well. And I would love to also continue to think more intentionally about what the needs or what families of color in this community would like to see out of an event like that, because it was a wonderful time. I don't take anything away from that. Mary was incredible with all and the schools. The support was fantastic, and also I have met other parents of color in the community. I see many black and brown kids in the schools whenever I visit, and I didn't see a lot of those families there. And I would love for us to think about how we can extend that connection further. And I know we've started to do that. This has come up like in a training briefly. But yeah, I would love to add to that to really make it feel like something that is all of ours, and to make sure we're not just uplifting the service component, which of course is important, but also, you know, the civil rights component, the challenges around race, remembering that this was a black man, and things like that. I would love to see built out of this year, because it was a beautiful turnout.
Any other comments? And shout out to the food. Is he the food director or whatever? Wow, I didn't eat, but everybody told me the food was really good, and they even had some left over. So thanks, and to all the custodial staff and the schools again for transforming the atrium into this big celebratory room. So that was really nice.
And our speaker here.
Yes, and thanks to both of our student speakers for being really inspirational. Isaiah here, but that was really nice. I actually started my day in Beverly. I went to the MLK event in Beverly. They had extended an invitation, and Jorge was there too. So we were in Beverly together at 8:30 in the morning. That's how we started. They also had theirs was it was a little more intimate in their middle school cafeteria, and then I continued to the Lynn event, MLK in Lynn. They also had a really beautiful event there, and then but they were all really great events. Any other comments? Okay, perfect. And again, this is a conversation that we're going to continue and evolve. And next year, as we talk about MLK, we're going to start thinking about where does it fall into our 5 pillars, right? Is it educational? Is it community engagement or building? Or is it advocacy? Or is it human rights? Or is it communication and promotion? Or is it bridge building? That's how I want us to start thinking about these things. New business. That's the last item on the agenda. It's a fairly quick meeting. Any new business? Yeah, none. I do think Josh means send over there's an online. Did you send it to the whole committee?
To you both. I wasn't sure how to.
Oh, okay.
What would be helpful?
Yeah,
just
we
need
probably
both.
wanna. There's a race-based bullying training online. That's gonna be on Tuesday, January 24th, from 5:30 to 7:30. We forward that to all the committee members. And who owns this again? This is from the Massachusetts. It's from the Massachusetts Coalition of Human Rights that we were talking about. They have this online event on race-based bullying, Tuesday, January 24th, 5:30 to 7:30. I will have we'll send the link over to people who want to register. Seems like it's going to be a really good program.
Isaiah wasn't here when we did our liaison reports.
Oh yeah, no, I'll get to him. Yeah. Yes.
It just also occurred to me in thinking about the schools as well, that I should have put it on the agenda, but I did get feedback from our elementary school curriculum team that offered their second community learning event. I'm losing track of time, but it was Tuesday,
Tuesday.
2 weeks ago. And I did get feedback that it was well attended. The audience was mostly, I think the audience was all in support of the work that they were doing. And once again, they presented their, I believe it's unit 3, maybe 4. But it focused on Middle Eastern and Arab American identities, disability, and Jewish identities. So again, just a reminder that I believe they're going to have at least one, maybe 2 more of those coming up. And as a community, as this committee, they're calling us partners in that work. So, making sure that we can show up for them in that way has been really helpful for them.
One of the real positive things they did was having a whole bunch of books out on the stage that we could look at ahead of time and then afterwards.
I think it was really meaningful to hear the different perspectives too. I don't know if you were as moved as I was, Bill, but like hearing it from a parent's perspective, then hearing it from teachers' perspectives, then hearing it from administration perspectives of all these different personal experiences. It was really different than the one 2 months prior, where it was more geared on sitting in small table settings and kind of debriefing as small groups. This was more of a presentation and sharing personal experiences, and it was really well done, I think.
Thank you. And one more thing. Our next meeting is scheduled for the 16th of February. And I just wanted to check and see if we can have it 1 week earlier. It's the week before school vacation. So if we can have it on the 9th, would people be amenable to that?
Okay with me.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. So yeah, let's move our February meeting, because I know there are people who go on school vacation on the 16th or that Friday morning, and people are packing. So it's the week just before school vacation. So if we can meet on the 9th, that would be great. Perfect. Yes.
Something I'd like to mention that the library is doing. We do have a newsletter that goes out every month. It's called All Kinds of Lives, and we curate books, media, resources, learning resources, and we've been doing it for about 6-7 months now. If you go to the library website, if you go to the staff read section, you'll find the newsletter. It's called, again, All Kinds of Lives. We also make printouts and keep them in the lobby of the library if anyone wants to take one home. Sure people are looking at that. It's a great resource, and we have a couple of people working hard to put it out, so check it out.
Perfect. Thank you. Last thing, Isaiah, thank you. Jasmine reported on the fact that you guys spoke at MLK. I know it's midterm week and you here, so the dedication and everything that you do, not only for the school but for the community, is really appreciated. Any update on Next Gen or anything?
Next Gen's been on a small little hold recently because our advisor had a tragic event occur, and so unfortunately there was a death in the family.
Wasn't aware of that.
But we've been having in-school meetings as we can.
Okay.
And I think we're going to start to pick back up soon. We're also eventually going to start to a lot of our students are going to join the regional NAAC Youth Council that Ms. Ridley is forming here in our region. And so we're hoping that a lot of our next gen students will join that. And yeah.
Awesome.
Where is that based out of?
Honestly,
sure.
I'm not quite sure.
What does that stand for?
NAACP.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Perfect. Oh, they have one. They have a North Shore. Okay. Perfect.
As for the high school, not much to report other than there's midterms going on. And yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem.
Any other new business? Here none. Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Need a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Okay, the motion carries.
It's like,
Ja-
well, I'm not
Jas-
someone